Hello. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I think my first question to you is, Abraham, I feel very fortunate in my life. And right now, I've been asking for abundance and asking for things, and they're coming and they're starting to come. But I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I don't contribute to the abundance in our home I don't bring in money, even though I'm...
Before you go further, we want to play with you a little bit about something. We want to hear all of that, or most of it, or some of it, or a little bit of it. When you say, I am fortunate, I feel fortunate, and then right away you began talking about abundance, and we think, well, isn't that a good word? How fortunate and fortune are vibrationally linked. I feel fortunate. And we started to interrupt you right then and say, what a good way to feel. And so hold in your mind the thought of the link between fortunate and fortune and prosperity. And then you said, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Now it's interesting because nearly every time, in fact, every time we've ever heard someone use the words stay-at-home mom, they were linking it to something other than fortune. Even though there are many wonderful reasons that you choose that, there's something that seems like the other end of the stick than fortune when you use that terminology. It doesn't have to be that way, but it sort of is. It's like fortune is on the prosperity end of the stick and stay-at-home mom is not. So we will hear you, but we want to show you how to get everything you want on the good fortune end of the stick.
Okay. That my husband doesn't always agree with the way that I want to spend money, and he's doing very well in his work, and he's making a lot of money, and he'd rather save it. And I'm all for saving for our future, but I'm also for spending for our now and enjoying our now in greater abundance.
Well, it can be as simple as this. Can you feel how when you feel fortunate, you're a vibrational match to the summoning of the dollars that you want to spend without resistance from your mate? And when you've got that stay-at-home mom vibration going on, which is I don't earn and therefore I'm not entitled. In other words, it doesn't have to be that way. And there are a lot of women or men or people who receive abundance without justifying it through their action, but it is sort of stuck in your vibrational craw. Can you feel that?
Yes.
You don't feel entitled.
That is correct.
To that. And we don't think that you don't feel entitled because your mate is trying to hold you away from that, because we can feel the generosity of his energy. It's just that somehow you have calculated his flow of money as the vortex through which your abundance flows, so it feels to you that you have a legitimate keeper of the gate of that money. In other words, you are entitling him to not entitle you, is sort of the way this is all playing out. Mm-hmm. And so talk to us about the flow of abundance. Speak in general terms rather than specific terms. The flow of abundance that you should be able to flow through you. In other words, try to broaden it past the vortex called my husband's earning, and talk to us about law of attraction and your hopes and dreams and what you've got in your vibrational escrow and how the universe always helps you out and gives you what you want no matter what.
It does. I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
Well, we liked your quick response, it does. That was a very good starting place. In other words, you feel that way mostly except about this subject that you've been practicing for a while. And we think one of the very best things to get rid of in your vocabulary is that stay-at-home mom business, which is at its vibrational core. In other words, what we hear from you is, I'm an unearning, yearning, would-be spender.
Yeah. And this is part of what was my second question was, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've gone to school to do lots of different things. And I dabble in this and I dabble in that, but I haven't yet found the thing that sparks my passion that I want to continue doing.
Well, now hear what you're doing. We really are enjoying this conversation with you because you're true to whatever's stuck in your vibrational craw. Can you hear how this story that you're telling backs up the stay-at-home mom story that you told us first? In other words, what you're saying is that I've dabbled, but I haven't become proficient enough to really deserve the dollars flowing to me in any other way. In other words, it's sort of the same story. I'm unearning. But there's a big difference between feeling unearning, which means I don't go and exchange my in this moment energy for a paycheck, and unworthy, which means I disallow abundance from flowing to me. In other words, we would like all of you to realize that you could be completely unearning, but you will never be unworthy. You could be completely unearning, meaning that you're not specifically exchanging activity for money, and still be abundantly receiving once you get your vibration in that place. So it is time for tweaking your story or rewriting it altogether.
Okay.
So let's do a little bit of that here. Okay. We'd like to hear a bit more from you about, in other words, so what you felt compelled to tell us is that you stay at home, which means you don't work. And then as we talked a little further, you felt compelled to tell us that even if you decided to go out and work, no one would hire you.
No, it's more that I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what.
So I don't have any energy lined up for that. Well, you like to spend money.
That I do.
You like to have fun. In other words, there are a lot of things that you like to do. You're just stuck in believing that you have to know something that you like to do that earns money. Mm-hmm. And we want to say to you, you could see yourself as a highly evolved being who has figured out how to get money without going to work.
I like that idea.
So tell that story to us. Wow. Using the components of the life that you're living, tell us that story.
That what I do. Well,
you don't have to get really specific. We just want a general, really positive story.
Okay, well,
I've got this really talented husband who really earns well, who adores me and gives me money.
And allows me to go play.
He is a wonderful vortex, and there are many vortexes like that through which my abundance comes. My abundance comes in the form of dollars. My abundance comes in the form of enthusiasm. My abundance comes in the form of clarity. My abundance comes in the form of wonderful relationships. I am so fortunate. That's where you started. I'm so fortunate. And all things that I want easily flow to me. And it seems like the better I feel, the more of it that flows. And I've discovered that in my appreciation of my mate's talent and generosity, and in my moving through the world and identifying more and more things that I want, that I'm able to breathe in and out, in and out, in and out more abundance. And much of it flows in and out through the vortex called my husband and his career and his occupation and his energy. But I can feel that there's more to it than just that. It's like I'm the summoner. On the elevator just now, some beautiful woman stopped Jerry and Esther and said, "I'm so glad I have this opportunity to tell you something I've been wanting to say." And she looked at Jerry and said, "Thank you for asking." And she looked at Esther and said, "And thank you for allowing." And we say, well, wasn't that a nice thing for her to say? And isn't that a nice balance that they've got going on here? But is that any different balance than you're asking and your mate allowing, you're asking and your mate allowing, you're asking and your mate allowing? In other words, isn't it true not only with receiving of Abraham, but receiving of dollars or receiving of anything else? In other words, don't you get credit for the asking part? Isn't that really a good thing? Aren't you a really good attractor of a really good life? And doesn't something count for that? And can't you see that a large part of the good that's come through you and through your mate and through his avenue of cold employment, can't you see that your vibrational asking is a large part of that?
Yes, I can see that.
You got to give yourself credit for in other words, the asking is an important part of it too. And the allowing, the only reason that you feel uncomfortable is because you're pinching off your own allowing by giving yourself labels that sort of denote your unworthiness, which flies in the face of everything that we talk about as we talk about this stream. We tease you unendingly as a mass consciousness. We talk about how you get into your raft and you point it upstream and you deliberately paddle very hard against the current. And we say, why not just turn and go with the flow? And you say, because I'm a stay-at-home mom. We say, why not just turn and go with the flow? And most say, because that just seems lazy. It seems lazy for me not to be trying harder, to have identified some means of specifically and directly and precisely bringing money into my experience through my effort. And we say, turn and go with the flow. Turn and go with the flow, you say. Feel better?
I do. And I think I'm on the brink of flowing.
Well, you're doing extremely well, and we are appreciating the clarifying question. As we feel you, we think that you and we have exaggerated your imbalance. We know it's just something that's a little more pointed, and you will always, there is no one who will ever be at a place where you are currently allowing through your vortex all that your time-space reality is causing you to ask for. There will always be a little bit of a gap where you're asking just beyond what you've currently figured out how to allow in. That's a good thing. That's that eagerness, you see. Good. Do you like working for your money? Do you like money? Do you like money flowing into your experience? Yes. Do you like the feeling of deservability of money? Yes. Do you justify the money that comes or allow it? Do you justify it? And is the justifying that you're doing your form of allowing it? And can you feel that there's a lot of room to play with? In other words, could you shift your perspective and get into a more allowing place where you'd need less justification? Do you know people who work really, 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 really hard and don't have much money flowing into their experience? Do you know people who don't seem to work hard at all, who have a lot of money flowing through their experience? Do you understand that they've figured that out? That they have just tweaked themselves vibrationally, and that's what makes the difference, that it's not about action, it's about vibrational alignment. So do you get that that's the real work that you want to do? It's energy work, it's vibrational work, it's attitudinal work, it's feeling work, it's thoughts that feel good, it's telling the new story, it's becoming the writer of your story the way you want it to be. Do you think it is wrong for someone to have a lot of money? If someone has a lot of money, do they deprive someone else of money? Is the pile of money a finite pile that has to be divvied out, or is it expanding exponentially based upon desire? Do you see that there are a lot of people who have asked, and there is a veritable fortune ready to be received that is not being allowed by thoughts of worry? Can you see how thoughts of recession or thoughts of depression are not about any reality? They're about attitude. They're about focus. Do you know that there are those who thrive in the worst of times, and that those that don't do well in the best of times? Do you get it, that it's about vibration and not about any sort of reality? Yes, you do.